Alright, the question in this video is, what are children like? Are children naive? The straight up answer is yes. Children are naive in the sense that they don't have experience, so they don't know what will get them into trouble, what will hurt them. And that is one of the major arguments against pedophilia, that they just don't know a lot. So if you're coming into the picture, aren't you going to end up hurting them? Since you have the advantage and the knowledge and they don't. So I'd say that's not a problematic phenomenon if the person is an upstanding citizen. So to use that as a reason why pedophilia should not be legal and should not be the norm, that's off the table as a proof. Because if you're upstanding, you're upstanding. The question is, who is upstanding? And I think that's why for pedophilic relationships there should be a filtering process and recommendations, and it should be taken very seriously in terms of knowing who to match up with who. So I do agree with pedophilia, but I think that it needs to be organized for the sake of the child. So children are naive. And a connecting question to this topic is, should the naivete of children be present? Meaning, is it wrong to have to have naive children, for children to lack knowledge in how things work? And yeah, I think it's wrong to say that I'm going to keep a child forever because that's what I'm attracted to. And I think that's where one of the major problems with pedophilia comes in, is if you say that that the biggest turn on for me as a person, as a pedophile, is that the child doesn't know a lot and doesn't know how things function, and I'm in control here. I think that's the biggest problem. Meaning, if you're coming from that standpoint, that I find it attractive because I'm in control, that's the issue. But if the attractive element is I want to fill in the gaps, I want to teach, then that's okay. But make sure you know where it's coming from, because the source of pedophilia comes from something called an ego. The same way the source for sex comes from an ego. And if you're Christian, you'd understand that sex is a biological, animalistic action. It's derived from the instincts. And so too, pedophilia is also derived from the instincts. Okay? So whether it's with an adult or a child, it's both ego. And so once you get that straight, you'll realize that the rigidity to have things a certain way comes from the ego, and the rigidity is not a good energy. So if you're only attracted to a kid who's naive because that is what a child is to you, that's not a bad thing. You're kind of expected to have that affiliation. Why? Because you're taught to believe that children are kind of stupid, or children lack knowledge, and children lack understanding of how things work, and understanding of what's going to get you into trouble and consequences. So that becomes the attractive element. So that's understandable. But the problem is to say, I want this to eternally be the attractive quality in someone, because that's what I was raised with. No, that's an issue. We got to exit out of children being, of wanting children to be lesser in intelligence. We should be trying to raise the IQ. And if you're afraid that you'll lose attraction for that person, that's coming from ego. You want things to be rigid. Now, I'm not going to judge you if you want to marry a specific child as an adult. That kind of gives you a sense that they don't know a lot and they may get themselves into trouble because of that. Because that's just your perception of what a child is. I'm not going to hold you to it. But if you're pious, if you're a pious pedophile, you'll want to raise the IQ of all children. You'll want the standard for a child to no longer be the naive appearance, but someone who might be confused with an adult. That's something there. That's something very important to think about.